After a 1-year exclusivity deal with Epic Games, Chivalry 2 is finally available on Steam. And with the Steam release, the game got its biggest content update yet, the Tenosian Invasion. In this video I will give you guys a quick overview on what this update is all about, but more importantly, talk a bit about the current state of Chivalry 2 in general and whether I think it is still worth it to get into this game 1 year after its release. So let's jump right into it. The Tenosian Invasion update brings a brand new faction to Chivalry 2, the Tenosians, a sophisticated tribe from the south that years ago repelled an invasion of the Agathians. They managed to kill King Argon I in battle, which ultimately led to the civil war between Agathians and the Mason Order, the two other factions of the game. The heart and soul of this new update are the two new team objective maps, in which the old conflict between the Tenosian Empire and the North rekindles. In the Breach of Baldwin, the Tenosians are marching north, attempting to break through the bulwark that separates the north from the south, an undertaking no army has ever attempted, until now. The map has a typical Middle Eastern desert vibe, and stands in bright contrast to the other Chivalry 2 maps, which are all inspired by Western European terrain and architecture. The second new team objective map is the Raising of Ascandir. Here the Masons set sail to the port city of Ascandir to demolish the city lighthouse and set the great Tenosian library on fire. Both maps are extremely pretty. In fact, if I had to pick out one thing that carried Chivalry 2 through its early stages, it would be their team objective maps. Not necessarily the map balance, but the atmosphere and general art direction. Besides those two team objective maps, there is also one new smaller deathmatch map, called Desert. The other highlight of this new content update is the addition of horses and horse combat. On the new team objective maps, cavalry spawns in waves, but only on certain objectives. Their movement is relatively clunky, especially when going at full speed. From the testing I have done so far, cavalry seems to be strong in open areas, where you have lots of space to ride big circles, and there are no obstacles to get stuck on. I think Thornbanner did a pretty good job with the cavalry implementation. Horses are strong and fun to play, but they also have counters and are not on every map and every objective. The Tenosian Invasion update also brought some new cosmetics and tons of fixes and balance changes. I won't go over everything one by one, as I want to keep this video as concise as possible, but you can find the link to the full patch notes in the video description below. With that out of the way, I want to talk a bit about the new player experience in Chivalry 2. In a game without any skill-based matchmaking, many potential new players are wondering if it's still worth it to get into this game 1 year after its initial release, or if everyone is a god by now and catching up is hopeless. Well, for once, the Steam release brought a ton of new players. But even if it wasn't for that, the newbie experience in general is pretty good in Chivalry 2. The combat system is designed in a way so that the skill floor for the team objective modes is very low. Now, what does that mean? First and foremost, it means that Chivalry 2 does not have any combat mechanics that are hard to pull off or need countless hours of practice. It's all relatively simple inputs, especially for a medieval slasher game. If you know your different attack angles, feints, ripostes and counters, you're pretty good to go. The skills ceiling in team objective modes, so how good you can get, or in other words, how many kills you can get in a team objective game, doesn't really derive from raw combat skill after a certain point. The skill ceiling rather lies in positional awareness, map knowledge, movement, distance judging and risk-reward weighing. These are the skills you can hone and refine for hundreds of hours, and they have a way bigger impact on your performance after a certain point than raw combat skill. As a consequence, I would say that most players in Chivalry 2 are on a relatively similar combat skill level. Now of course there are outliers, but I would say that the middle 3/4 on the skill curve is relatively close together. And honestly, I think that's good and necessary for a game like Chivalry 2. Since skill-based matchmaking is not really an option for these big team game modes, the only way to keep the game environment healthy and let new players get into the game without getting slaughtered by veterans for hundreds of hours is to keep the skill difference between newbies and veterans somehow in check. At least in team objective game modes. The skill ceiling for duels and other competitive modes, and its problems and flaws, is a topic for another time. Alright, you might say. So I won't get slaughtered as a new player, that's good to hear. But what about the game in general? Is it even good? Chivalry 2 has started out really strong. When the game released a year ago, the hype was real. They got super good press from the mainstream gaming media and good reviews from streamers and YouTubers. But it kinda went downhill from there. Variety streamers went on to the next flavor of the month games, and the initial momentum died off. People stopped playing because of bugs, lack of content, and important features that were missing, like crossplay parties. There always have been enough players to find games quickly, at least in North America and Europe, but the player base definitely wasn't flourishing. I think it is fair to say that a big part of that 1-year Epic Games Store exclusivity felt like a paid beta, especially for console players. Recently, however, Tornbanner has stepped it up and got things more under control. They pumped out update after update at an impressive pace, made new maps, improved the combat balance, fixed bugs, and in general seemed eager to improve their game on many fronts. There are now 9 different team objective maps and several smaller ones, which is approximately the amount of content a team objective game mode focused medieval slasher game should launch with. They definitely needed that extra year to get their game in shape for the Steam release, where now it is important to have a good Steam review score and where player numbers cannot be hidden anymore. One big feature that is still missing is crossplay parties. These are supposed to come with the next update this summer. As a workaround, people can manually join the same server via the server browser. In my opinion, Chivalry 2 is in a pretty good state right now and definitely worth picking up. A very fun and cinematic medieval combat game that gets frequent content updates. People just need to have their expectations right. Will this ever gonna be a big esports title? Hell no, but you can definitely get hundreds of hours of casual fun out of it. I still think the whole medieval slasher genre has a lot of untapped potential, and I'm really curious in what direction the Chivalry 2 development goes and what features we will see in the future. Tornbanner sold somewhere between 1 and 2 million copies before the Steam launch, so they should have enough funds to support this game for quite a while. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on Chivalry 2 and the Steam release in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and hit the subscribe button for more Chivalry 2 and other medieval slasher content. As always, thank you all for watching and see you soon.